Greetings and welcome to this tutorial on dictionaries inside of UiPath Studio. As always, we are going to begin with another new project as a process. So simply click on the process under the new project category here, and we will give this a project name of Dictionaries. Again, make sure you're saving your project to your desired folder. I want to go ahead and keep mine in line with where we've been storing all the previous projects. And for this description, I want to simply say playing around with the dictionary data type. And that's exactly what we are talking about. The dictionary is really nothing more complicated or fancy than yet just another type of variable, a very commonly used variable inside of UiPath, especially if you get into the RE framework. So we're going to dig into the basics understanding and some of the concepts around what a dictionary is and how they function inside of UiPath Studio. So dictionaries is my project name, again saved to the folder location in which I've been saving all my previous projects to, and simply playing around with the dictionary data type. And go ahead and create your project. And the easiest way to try to describe and explain the concept of a dictionary is to go back and have a very quick, brief review of what an array is and how an array functions. So once you get your project built, simply go into your main workflow. And to get things started, I want to bring a assign activity across. And inside of here, I want to start with a small review of arrays for additional context and detail around the use of an array. Please check out the previous video in this series. So in this case, I want to create a new array. I want to use the same example or same type of an array that I used previously. In this case, an array called str years. Again, variable type of an array, in this case of strings. Again, we're going to keep our string array holding specifically years in this case. So array of t as string, notice variable type is of string. To be able to define an array, recall it was the open curly bracket, close curly bracket. Then with no values in there, obviously the array is blank. So I want to put a few values in here. So 2019, 2020, and 2021, all in quotes. Notice no errors. I take that back. I do have an error. I've got a typo in here somewhere. And that is the fact that I did not assign it to the array. So obviously this value here, assigning it to str years, and quickly as a demonstration, bring the right line activity in and say simply display out str years. Remember, the important part here that I'm getting ready to really call out on is recall an array uses an index value. So in this case, I've specified a value of 2, which is talking about the second indexed value or second indexed item in the list. Remember, arrays use a zero-based index, so 0 goes to 2019, the 1 index goes to 2020, and the second index value goes to 2021. So doing this right line activity here, running my automation, I should get the value 2021 back. And indeed we do. There's the value 2021 coming back from the array. What I want to be able to demonstrate here is that a dictionary is nothing more than a very fancy array. And what I mean by fancy, it allows us the ability to use a text-based key in order to access a value, as opposed to simply being required to use a index value. So actually being able to use text to reference a value out, as opposed to just being able to use an index. And in order to demonstrate and accomplish this, Recall in the onset of our conversation here, I had mentioned that a dictionary is really nothing more than a very specific type of variable, specifically known as a dictionary. So how do we get one? How do we begin instantiating and loading a dictionary type variable? So in this example here, I am going to go into my variables again. I'm going to create a new dictionary called years, similar to what I've got with my years array, but it's going to have a slightly different purpose in this context. So my naming that I try to use with dictionary is DICT to imply that I've got a variable type of dictionary, and I'm going to use the years value again. Similar to what we've done with being able to declare an array of strings or numbers and integers, etc. In this case, I need to go to browse for types. The dictionary variable type by default is not already preloaded in our list of options here. So I have to go into the browse for types here. I need to look for a dictionary type variable. And what I always try to tell people when you're looking for the majority of the variable data types that you'll be using inside a UiPath, always look for this MS Core lib, Microsoft Core library. You notice when I've typed in dictionary here under the system.collections.generic, I have a dictionary that has a T key and T value. This is type of the key and type of the value. So recall what I had said, we have the ability to send in a key type value, and in response, we're going to be able to get a associated value back out. Ours in this case is going to be a very generic example, and what we're going to do is have the ability to send in a string instead of an index value like we had with an array. I want to actually be able to send in text in the form of a string. Notice this is talking about the key, the T key here, comma, what type of value is this dictionary going to hold? In this case, I'm just going to hold plain text. So ours is going to be a dictionary of string of strings is how this is read. If we get into RE framework, I had mentioned that we will get into a dictionary type value here. What we're going to find with the dictionary that's commonly used inside of the RE framework is going to be a string of objects. Again, objects being able to hold more generic type data. So at this rate, for our demonstration, though, we're going to go with a dictionary of string of strings, and this will make a bit more context when we begin putting this into practical use. But the idea here is being able to pass in text and get a text value back out. The key being of form text, and the value that's returned back to us is also in the form of text. But notice we can declare any type of variable for either value, depending on the specific need of our automation. So once we have the dictionary defined of string of strings, go ahead and hit OK. When you do that, you get this nasty little system. You're getting the whole context here. As soon as you tab off of here, you'll notice it simply comes back and says dictionary string string. So we've got a dictionary of strings of strings. And then the way we begin to work with this, I'm actually going to bring in a multiple assign. I want to go ahead and leave my activity above for reference purposes. But at this rate, the very first thing we have to do with a dictionary is initialize it. We have to create a new dictionary. And the way this is done is simply referencing our variable name, in this case, the dictionary of years. And this is where things get a little bit more interesting, something that we have not seen. We're going to use the keyword here of new in dictionary. Notice it has of. You kept hearing me say we're going to create a dictionary of string of strings. If I hit tab here and open parenthesis, I say of string if I can spell, string, comma, string, and then close the parenthesis. And I had a typo here. It's of, not the other. String of strings. There we go. So to look at this again real quick, I have a sign on the left side of the variable here. I'm assigning the statement here, new dictionary of strings. This simply has to match the type of variable that I have defined here is what I'm after here. So depending on the type of variable that you might be trying to initialize or instantiate, it's going to be the use of string of string. It has to match the actual way that you define the dictionary variable in your variables tab. What this does is it creates a brand new dictionary for us that is blank. It's empty and it's ready to start receiving data. And to demonstrate this, just like what we had up above, I don't really have an easy way of doing a direct assignment here. I need to be able to assign the key value pairs. And in order to do this, what I'm going to say here is dictionary years. Notice when I hit the open parenthesis here, it says key as string. What is the key value? In this case, if we go to the idea of an array, it's what's the index value going to be? What's the key value, though, is what we talk about in a dictionary. And what I want to do is, in quotes, notice it's expecting a string, and remember that's because we're declaration of string of strings. I want to put in quotes here 2019. That is all I have to specify here. It's in a open and closing parenthesis here. This is in comparison to the array using an index. This is a key here, which allows me to get a specific value out. Notice we said it's going to hold strings. This is the key. This is the first string, comma. The value here is, again, plain text. I want to say this is the year 2019. In double quotes, remember this is a string. We're assigning a string, this text here, to our dictionary with a key of 2019. To demonstrate this out a bit further, let's go ahead and add a couple more lines. Stay with the same approach, dictionary year 2020 in quotes, and then simply say in double quotes here, this is the year 2020. Go one more year here. Dictionary of years 2021, open parenthesis, close. Let's say this is the year 2021, end quote. Notice all my errors have gone away. It's simply telling me each of these is the year 2019, the year 2020, and the year 2021 in quotes, double quotes on each of these because they are strings. We're loading them into the dictionary, which is using a key value of type string. Notice I'm simply putting the year in quotes. I could have declared this as a dictionary of integers of strings, since the years obviously are of a type numeric value. If I would have done that, instead of putting them in double quotes, I would remove the double quotes. It's simply looking for an integer. That would be a legitimate approach as well. In this case, I kept mine simple. It's just looking at text, in this case, string of 2021, 2020, and 2019 matching to my corresponding values. In order to get a value back out of here, let's go ahead and bring a right line in and drop it underneath. All I have to do is specify the dictionary of years. In this case, let's say return 2020. Notice the error goes away. Go ahead and save, and if I run my automation here, you'll notice I'll still get my 2021 from above. That's, again, looking at our array example. But then notice on the other side, it says this is the year 2020. What it's done is it's pulled this value out because of the use of the 2020 here. Let me try to maybe bring a little bit more context to this specific example. So what I've done is I've demonstrated here inside of an Excel spreadsheet. Notice in an array, to get any of the values out, we have to use the corresponding index value. So if I want to get 2020 out, I need to know to reference the year or the index value of 1 to return the value 2020. A dictionary follows that same exact premise, but the exception is that we are no longer using an index value, we're using a key value instead. something that we define. Recall, this is something that UiPath is going to define based on how we enter values into the array. 2019 being the first gets assigned a value of 1, then 2021 here, and then 2021 there. So it's simply an iteration of each item being added. This is something, though, that we as the developer get to control. So being able to specify any value that we want. It doesn't necessarily have to be in order. So I could jump ahead. Let's play around with that just for a quick demonstration. Let's add another dictionary value here. Let's say 2030. Notice I don't have anything between 21 and up to 2029. And I'll simply say this is the year 2030. Again, purely from a demonstration perspective, these values, depending on your automation, would be specific to what it is you're ultimately trying to accomplish. But an excellent example here, being able to reference a specific value back out based on a key going in. So in this case, 2030. Look, I want to leave this alone. 2020. That's what we had before. I want to bring in another right line just to demonstrate this here. Copy, paste, and change the 2020 to be 2030. So if I save and run this automation here, you'll notice I'll get the 2020 value out as well as the 2030 value. One thing to demonstrate here, which does get to be a bit problematic or can be problematic, it's something that you'll have to handle as a part of your automation. Let's look at the scenario in which a key doesn't match. So notice we don't have a valid key here of 2025. We got 19, 20, 21, then we skipped all the way to 30. So we jumped out to 2025. Notice if I attempt to run this automation here, I will run into an error saying the given key was not present in the dictionary. And what that's trying to say again is we did not populate a value of, in this case, 2025. I could have put 2022, 23, etc., 2029 on the other side, or any other value that's not in this list, and we would get this error. So this would be a situation where, depending on your automation, you either need to make sure you don't pass in an invalid key, or being able to, as we get into a future chapter down the road, the ability to bring some error handling around this to make sure you capture this hard error before you completely abort your automation on a hard stop there. So in short, this is how you play with dictionaries inside of UiPath Studio.